Hey there, guys. What is up? So, I was watching a documentary about a book called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And it got me to remember the stories that I had read, all the scary little details and everything. It brought such imagination to my head. It brought such imagination to me that I thought of all the possibilities that could happen to me. Yes, it did scare me a lot, and I had nightmares of it, but that book I read back in Garden City when I was in elementary. I would always read scary books, and the teachers would always ask me why, and I'm like, I find them interesting. I find them fun. And so one day I was in a program called TEP. It's called Therapeutic Education Program. And I had come across this book, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And I picked it out. I'm like, ooh, this seems interesting. And read, I had read a lot of horror stories throughout my life. I would always pick up a ghost book or a horror book and just start reading it. So one day I had I'd picked up the book and the artwork just captivated me. I had opened the book and the first story I read sent shivers down my spine. But at the time I was interested in horror. I still am interested in horror. But I had read the original book and needless to say, it completely captivated me. And as I remember those stories, I remember that I learned something from them. I learned of anything that could happen. And I learned that when you die, yes, your body does rot, but in the end, the memories you leave behind are those that are truly cherished. That book, oh man, my mom would see me with that book in my hand. I would walk in the door reading it. I would walk in the door dead center of a book, of that kind of book, and I wouldn't put that down at all. My grandparents would see me reading that book and like, oh, you're not supposed to read that. I would just look at them and say, I find it fun to read these books. Let me read them. Oh man, those books taught me so much about the things that could happen, about what sometimes we create can turn on us for the worst or turn for us on the better, or turn on us for the better. And I always loved the artwork. I could never stop looking at the pictures. Sometimes I'd have to cover my hand because they were so distracting. Not in the bad way. I was captivated by them. But sometimes I'd have to have my hand over the image because I was so captivated that I wouldn't read. And then I'd read the story and I'd get captivated by the story. And then I'd go back and look at the picture and like, oh, this makes sense now. And like, oh my god, I loved those stories. I would always try and find them wherever I went. Oh man. I even did a book report on them once, and oh my god, the teacher's look. I would write in exact detail of what the book was saying, and the teacher's like, and where'd you get this information from? And I would just hold up the book, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And they're like, you gotta stop reading that. I'm like, no, I find it entertaining. Those books were the first books I ever found entertaining. I had a Goosebumps book written by R.L. Stine called Claws. I would not stop reading that. Sometimes I wouldn't even go to the end. I would just stop the story, restart it, and then go to the end. And I'm like, I fucking love these books. You know, I absolutely loved it. I absolutely adored those books. After a while, though, I couldn't find them anymore, so I'm like, damn, I can't read them anymore, so I've lost interest. So yeah, I'm gonna order them on Amazon whenever I can with the help of my mom, and I'm planning on like reading the books to you guys, word for word. And the books were written by crud. I forgot his name already, but when the books come in, I'll read them to you, and and they're based off of, and they're actually folklore, folk tales too. And when I get the books, I'll tell you who the author is if I'm able to get them. So yeah, see ya.